Hello. Yep. Hello. Welcome to Test Card TV. Yes, so there you saw the first mixtape of Test Card TV. Oh, let me start again. Today we are joined by Alec and Dee. Hello, Alec and Dee.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How are you all today?
Yeah, no, good, tired, excited,
Yes.
lots of things. Yeah,
Lots of things.
Same, loads of things. Being a
Yeah.
couple of not that busy, but yeah, loads of things happened in the past few
Yeah.
weeks. So
Alec, what are you? Alec, what are you today?
what I am today, I am improving my avatar, and at the moment I'm two cameras. Like it's basically my webcam and my Kinect. The background is coming from my Kinect.
Oh, nice one.
Couple of distorted things, and the other one is just my webcam and like a nice use of light to create some sort of a kind of effect.
There we go.
You look absolutely beautiful. I have to say.
Yeah, compared to like other 2 weeks ago when you were just like the floating partial head, and now it's properly getting there. Oh,
yeah. Next
good.
time will be a bit more less pixel hat.
It's a work of art. Work of art. Right, yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you for everyone who took part in the first test card mixtape. I think that was an absolute success, if I don't say so myself. So, I mean, helped by amazing visuals by everyone and the amazing soundtrack by Automat. And he just had that sitting there. I asked him, because I was asked if you got a song we can use, and he said, oh yeah, I've just finished one, threw that over. I was like, oh yeah, it's sick, obviously. So it made it a lot easier to do. But yeah, I mean, that was all in aid of trying out different methods, or like kind of projects we can do over the next couple of months that help develop programming for Test Card TV. Because over the last 2 months, I think, we've been running this and the whole corona thing has happened. We've been kind of trying to figure out what's the best way to have kind of a platform on the internet to support this community. And obviously it's starting out with our discussions and stuff, but last week was so heavy and like lots of talking, lots of this and that and the other. So we're always kind of like learning as we're going along. And, you know, this was the first attempt at trying to create a new segment for the show, which hopefully, you know, will happen every 2 weeks, I think, at the moment, which will involve or get the community to create the content, because that's exactly what the purpose of this platform is to platform kind of the artists in the community. So yeah, I mean, it was a test to see if people actually engaged with it, and yeah, they did. So happy days. And it's not too much of a commitment, I think, for 20-30 seconds. Enough to have a little play and send something over, and then see it on the big TV or the big laptop.
That's what we want it for.
Indeed.
Everything on the big TV.
Well, I was saying to Alec before, it's dawned on me the last couple of days, I think, that this situation with the COVID is going to last for a long time, particularly affecting the live events and stuff. So, I mean, I've ebbed and flowed over the last couple of weeks, trying to apply for stuff and focus dipping here and there. But I think, Test Card TV, the project is, going to be super important over the next kind of year, 2 years, to working out what's the best way to kind of platform people on the internet. And one thing I want anyone who's watching and stuff, any part of the community, because every week we're going to try and engage more we can. I want you to engage with this program, because I want you to tell us what you would like us to do through Test Card TV, what kind of things like the mixtape might work and stuff. So if you do have any ideas, send them over, write in the comments, or Sean at test-card.com.
But yeah, I'm trying to keep an eye on both the streams we've got, because I've noticed that we've got it on Facebook as well now, which is sound, as well as Twitch, which is all good. So yeah, any questions pop in there, I'll have a look on and I'll try and bring them up through this, and for us to answer at any point as well.
Yeah, just working out different. I was thinking before as well. I don't know if people would be up for doing a virtual meetup through like a Zoom kind of like thing where we're all in the same room, but we could share screens and still kind of have our meetup, which isn't just, you know, us streaming as well. It's like more of a kind of like a private, well, not private, it's open obviously, but you know, people who want to be involved. Might be an idea, might not work, might work, don't know.
We'll
Always
keep it.
developing.
Yeah, sounds like a good way to approach it. Definitely, it will be nice to see back the best card meetings in online form, with just a bunch of hats on a bunch of screens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if everyone does what you do, that would be great. Because I need to get on that. Like, I need to get on that now. Because I've got the Joy-Cam and stuff, so I need to then start. I need to plug it in, and then I don't know, make my own avatar. So that'd just be super fun.
It is. I need to get back to doing stuff, and it's the same thing that Sean was mentioning. Like I've been learning and applying for commissions. That's mostly my last 2 weeks, but I'm just thinking I need to get back to do stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely improving the avatar, make it a bit more reactive and stuff. That's probably a thing for the next couple of probably next month, I'll say. Like, don't go too ambitious for next week, because I'm like, no, it's just a lot of work.
I just really want an Oculus Rift.
So much in it now. It's all it's all I want.
It's all
It's
I
like
want.
at work. Yeah, at work there's like a massively open space. Like just like because we have like a slat, and then we've got like a bunch of like computers on the side, and then it's just empty space. In there, and it'd be like they've got like loads of little like vents on the floor as well, and be like, this is just the perfect place to get a HoloLens. Then you could literally just go to the empty space and like enter it and do all that. Oh, it'd be so fun. Yeah, but it's all I want. It's all I want now.
All I want. Well,
Yeah.
so one thing we're going to try out today as well is the start of maybe the test card archive, which we can start kind of like, because I've got loads of footage from test card over the last 4 years, and you know, obviously I've been meaning to sort it out forever, and obviously this is the best time to do it, but at the same time try and pick out a few clips that I could share through this stream while we're going live. So I've got one today, and it's Seth and Guillaume back in 2017 when they did Test Card Live 11 at Texture, and it was such a good performance. It just kind of like stuck in my memory for ages, and it's only one track. It's about 4 minutes long, but I thought, yeah, let's give it a go. Let's have a little watch, I think. So see you back in a bit. Hello, and welcome back. That was the first clip of our archive series. That was the first actual live stream Testcard ever did, which that was nice to have, and to be able to take a little snippet again and show. Hope you enjoyed. So
Yeah.
today, we're going to talk about narrative. That was a subject selected by our good friend Alec in that gorgeous Renaissance painting in the corner. And you know, narrative's great in it. You know what I mean? It's such a good it's such a good word as well. It's always sounded so. Always interests me from the start. You know, when I started looking at cinema and stuff, and what is narrative. The first thing you're taught is like the beginning, middle, and end kind of concept and stuff, and then that slowly disintegrates as you get to know more and more and more as well. Kind of, anyway. But okay, what area of narrative would you like to talk about, Alec?
Well, I was my interest, I would say, more recently researching into sort of generative narratives, and like it's sort of a recent experiment that I started related to a commission and how you can actually, which is sort of built up from experience that I got as a software developer, and I could definitely relate this similar. It sort of started from this notion of, you know, how in computer games you do certain actions, and basically the whole notion of narrative is a bit switched from either you observe the whole thing, you actually interact with the whole environment, and through this interaction you actually build the whole story. And at the same time, if we go to I would say websites, and then there is this sort of a notion of user experience, which if like I'm going to make a reference to a book by Lev Manovich called The Language of New Media, where he basically speaks like roughly he speaks about loads of stuff, but in general he speaks how we can look at this as again some sort of a narrative, because you got this information represented in a certain way, and you got some sort of experience, whether you're going to type your name, then something happens, then you see a bunch of photos, this makes you think about something, you click on one of them, and like if you think a bit more abstractly about it, it's a good way to represent it in the same sort of a narrative. But that this, while in cinema you got only the temporal side of things, well, if we don't count, I would say, media art, with this one you got also the spatial notion of narrative, so the narrative can happen at anywhere in the screen or virtual space or whatever, and even got the notion how you can build, again, as we mentioned in the games, narrative, as I mentioned in the game, narrative through navigation. So yeah, that's, I would say, my starting point. And I send you a video, Sean, which
I haven't got it, unfortunately.
Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't able to
no
get it in
worries.
time.
No worries.
The one thing, the one thing I couldn't do this week.
Oh well.
Next time. Next time.
Next
Production
time,
value
cool.
every time. But yeah, I mean, it's super interesting that kind of your actions determine the narrative. You know what I mean? And that's like in audio visual performance, when I got to know it and stuff and understand it, it was like, well, okay, so just playing with modular stuff and developing that sound, the way you develop it is the narrative of it. It's how you interact with it and stuff. And I really always just liked that concept, and it always kind of like stuck with me. It's so freeing as well. You know, it gives you the power as an artist to kind of like go wherever you want in that kind of like art form. And that's like, you know, the beauty of music and kind of like jamming and stuff. It's like, I think that was the freeing element of it for me, from learning cinema to learning software like VDMX or something like that. It allowed me to kind of like play with the media like a musical instrument, and that was it. I was messing with tone or like shape, and like kind of like modulating that through different effects, and I was like, okay, so that's kind of like the narrative of it. And it's just so freeing and nice. I mean, sometimes it can drive you mad because, you know, it just isn't happening, but then it is happening and stuff. But that's like the kind of beauty of it, isn't it? You kind of like channeling in your kind of energy into it, I guess. It's like, I think recently over the last week I've realised I go like a wave. Like I'm literally on one day, off the other, on, off, on. I woke up a different person today. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, yesterday I was just like, nah, it ain't happening now. I don't know. It's just not happening. It's just nothing's happening. And then today, oh, yeah, fine. And it's just happening like that, like yeah, kind of thing. I'll let you know how that continues over the weeks of task card. Guess.
Yeah.
Stream.
Yeah. What is it? I love I love the idea of narrative and narrative conversation in like what we do and everything like that, because it's so visual and so digital. I feel like a lot of people disconnect from that, from the kind of the purpose of what we're doing, and about how it kind of, like, depending on the space or the performance that we're creating it within, it creates a completely different atmosphere and a different vibration of the feelings of the entire night and the entire music based on what we create. So for me, for example, who often creates from just my lines to begin with, always at the same point from each night, and the location, how all that changes depending on what the sound is, or what I'm feeling, or how big the space is, or whatever like this. It's like for the first 3 hours, like kind of a structure of the way in which I make those. The first 3 hours, I'll just start making and building and just playing with whatever. Like, yep, here's this bit of feedback, bit of that, yeah, all fun. Then when I hit like a groove of something, it's like, I like this. This is fun. This is framing everything. This is making everything look the way I want it to. And people are responding the way I'd hope so. That really meets the midpoint. The midpoint is where I start to then stop developing and stop building and just start developing and start making those visuals work in different ways and do different things. Probably put a sphere in it because I really like spheres. And then from there, it's like that for like 2 hours. And for the final hour, it's basically like, all right, climax and bashing it out, and then getting it to, so it's like properly hitting all the points I want to, and then relaxing for the end. So there is a structure to the system of it all, that kind of is part of the narration of what the night is itself. And it can create like I remember all the time when I used to go out and I would see like visuals anyway of where it was like, oh, it was when that was on and the space looked like this, and those things were going flash, like the projection was going flash, or the lights were doing this thing. It's like landmark points for me to reference to after night itself, and they can help in that kind of cohesion, like memory, with what's been going on, which is so fun.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, one of the first kind of performances that really kind of inspired me to go on and make my party with Rich, my mate in the early uni days, Retna, was watching Richie Horton's show at Warehouse Project, like years and years, like 10 odd years ago. And it's Ali Demille, I think that's how you say his second name. But like that was such an amazing visual show, and it was done with early Touch Designer as well. So I was like looking at it, and I remember downloading Touch Designer and having no idea of it. I was like, what is this? So it's really nice to have that reference back then, and now I can, like, it's one of my main pieces of software. But yeah, just the images I remember are ingrained in my memory from that night, and that's why the party was called Retina, because it was like the image getting stuck at the back of your retina, and it's just like in there, like imprinted on your mind, like, and that's where the kind of like idea for the kind of, I was probably standing in where I was fucked as well, looking out where I was. Retina.
Yeah.
Retina, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. Such a
definitely. I was. I don't know. I think my experience actually started with, again, light surgeons, who are like really present in the way that they build narrative. It's like a really sort of, not present, I would say, sort of explicit, because it's, if we go to even computer games, and remember, like, again, reference, there was a guy called Svetan Polarov who described minimalist narrative as simply switch from a state to state, which could be anything. And obviously, like, it's the same as sort of all sorts of a new media, like media, like computer-based media. gives you this freedom to actually say that, let me say, like, you got the grain image that goes into a like super clear image, and that could be in a way a narrative, or as Steve described, the thing with the way you develop your lines or whatever, and it creates some sort of a composition, like it's not like creates some sort of a linearity in like the people's mind, which usually like is what's sort of like the story that it tells. It's what stays in people's minds. Wow, and it's like that's I guess the power of the visual medium in general compared to the audio. There's still like obviously great, and it got a lot of other properties, but it's not the thing. It's like your memory is predominantly visual, and as much as audio, like audio is obviously important part. You can if you're deaf, you're still going to have difficult time. But it's interesting how the whole visual aspect, like how like even so simple aspect, like simple elements can build some sort of a story in your head, or you can interpret it like, oh, okay, so this movement is actually something that I would remember.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes less about what you're trying to say or what you're trying to show, rather than this is the construct of what we've done, and a kind of representation of what is being done. I think that's always the thing with narrative, is rather than what is it trying to say, because it's like a lot of the work that I think we've done is so interesting, and there can be like narrative in its typical story elements. It's like it's kind of thematic narratives, but it's much more, or no, not literary narratives. That's it. Compared to like the visual form of it being just so okay. So this is came from somewhere else. This has began here and became something else, and it's now there. And it's, as you were saying before, due to action. It's quite fun. Yeah, I mean, it's such an important part. Do you think, like in regards of narrative in itself, do you think it's possible to create the performance that we do itself without narrative, with narrative without, or is it a byproduct of what we always have?
Well, it's there's always going to be something, some kind of thing driving it. Hopefully, because it's just all about the experience, isn't it? It's how you experience it as a human and stuff. So unless you're just dead inside and nothing's happening, then there's always something being processed, that drives some kind of thought, and then you kind of a process happening, I guess. I've been doing a lot of research over the last couple of weeks about kind of how we as humans experience reality through our five senses. And I was like, for a long time I've had a really kind of like interest in exploring how technology could provide another sense for the human to like perceive things and stuff. So I was like really looking into that. I mean, maybe this is going a bit off topic, but it's cool and I just want to share it, I guess. It's just this guy, neuroscience, developed this vest, and it's got all these vibrators in the back, and basically it's for deaf people. And what the vest does, it interprets the vocal sound and converts it into vibrations on the body, and then the body, over time, the body will learn this subconsciously, this language, and then suddenly the kind of human who's wearing the chest will be able to tell what the words are. And I was just like, oh, so cool. You know what I mean? It's all through those vibrations as well, and just like building habits in and stuff. Fascinating now.
Yeah, is that like using like haptic feedback, or what's the kind of structure? Do you know how it was made or how it's being developed?
I don't know a lot about the ins and outs of
Sure.
like the technology and stuff, because I only watched a few things, and I definitely need to delve into it a little bit more. It interestingly went on to a conversation with this mystic guru guy. So this neuroscientist and this mystic like are kind of like chatting on this stage about life, reality, how we perceive it and stuff. It's really cool. Yeah, there's just lots to learn from that as well. As one thing I'm particularly interested in is obviously technology is being driven by commercial gain. So like that's how that. So the technology that we use and perceive the world through is designed for the need to profit. So that alters our perception of the world, and it kind of detaches us a little bit from the living world and stuff. So I was like looking back at like, oh, so how could we possibly look back at old kind of, for instance, I was looking into shaman kind of beliefs and rituals. So there's more kind of like mystic angle to it rather than this cold logic kind of sense of how we develop technology. What if we kind of look at them over the next like couple of years and look at how we can like bring a more spiritual aspect to technology, I guess. But I've gone a bit off track there. What do you think?
That's all right. Keep on going. Keep on going.
Yeah, well, it's like it's just a fascinating area for me, and at the moment, everything's based on hard logic. And the mystic, the one thing I do remember, like I can repeat now, is like, you'll never find an end. Whatever you're looking for out there, when you think you've got it, it had already multiplied into a billion different things. It's like unachievable, like what you're looking for. It's like what the idea is that the mystics are trying to obviously look at within. So like rather than out, it's like using technology kind of to provide inner exploration of the self and stuff. It's just a really interesting possible angle.
I would say I kind of feel that's sort of because it all generally like most of the technology was developed for military purposes in first place, and because that's where the most money were going into, and after that was just commercial purposes because that's obviously like as things shift. So I think is the more we adapt to it, the more we're going to relate to it in a way. And like obviously technology will develop, but there will be like at the same time like I think it's just now is quite an interesting time as technology is start to getting a bit of a like there are a lot more art that is technology related than people are assuming. Like the whole field of like computer based art. It's like that is sort of it's not that old compared to everything else. It's just the whole sort of a humanizing aspect of technology that it provides. I think it'll play a lot more. It'll be a lot more impactful that it is at the moment, as it's still like I would say, internet art has been like 20 years old, and like all sorts of VR and stuff. Even as a technology, like most of the artworks, like a bunch of them are from I would say the couple in the 80s and 90s, but most of the internet art, most of the technology that can use for art purposes is for like maximum 20 years. That's compared to cinema and see. Imagine how cinema looked in the 20s, and we are probably at that stage with digital art at the moment. So well, excited to see what are the new like narrative structures coming out of it. Because that was another thing I was kind of fascinated a lot. Is how the whole notion of like you don't like another thing I was shifting to. You don't need to have some sort of a linearity, which I think visuals are playing really good. It's just they force you to be non-linear. Whatever you do, you're always going to have this bunch of information that the whole job is just to organize it. And like then if you got a certain way of dealing with that, it's like that's what sort of your style is in a way. And obviously selection and then organization live.
I mean,
it is quite
I don't know if it's just me because I obviously respond to maybe colour a bit more than maybe other people do and stuff. But one thing I found, especially from like, particularly the Radiohead, the visual artist, I remember reading a book of his, and in his stage design, when I seen Radiohead, he kind of like, the live performance is broken into colour. So it's like, imagine just like a whole performance in the same colour all the way. But imagine if when you start separating and making distinct colour separations in the performance, the mind remembers that part because it's got that, it's more standing out as a different style. So how your head picks it up. So that's always something that's stuck with me. I think maybe when I'm developing a live show and stuff, is like I need a narrative for the colour. I think to kind of like change. So this scene is this colour, and this is like so it's distinct and different, and that creates kind of stages within the live performance. I think, and obviously that is coupled with like movement and stuff as well. But yeah, I found it kind of like maybe sticks in the mind of the audience a little bit better when it's done like that.
And ourselves as well. Like
Yeah.
it helps stick it into yourselves because you then realize when you can get to it. When you get like some of that you use, when you get that to point of overusing something, and then it's like okay, it's time to change because it's a natural. This is a natural right. This one's getting a bit tired now, and also everything around it's changed a bit. It will be like kind of the color itself accentuates the change in form of what you've also created. And because that's so vast, even if it's both like similar-ish, but it's changed in some way, having the color kind of accentuates that whole change. I
I think
guess, or scene, like if you call them scenes, isn't it?
yeah,
Or
and
movements or scenes. Yeah.
a state though, you know what I mean? It's a different state, and I think that's what humans love about. That's what our minds kind of feed off, particularly for me anyway, is like having different states. So half the problem about being in your house or flat all the time, which I'm well versed with, is that you only have one environment all day. So when you're only in one environment all day, you feel time flies because you're not going to different places and stuff. If you go to different places, it'll seem like a longer day, even though it's the same time. Your perception of time will change because you're going through these different scenes, I think, and states. It's just super interesting, that, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's super. That's very interesting. It's quite cool. I didn't think of that. I mean, for me, it's like I don't know, because I'm still moving about quite a bit. I do realise that it's like I know got up this morning, sorted out the stuff for the next day, then went to work, then did work, and then came back, and then went straight to this. Where it's like, yeah, when I think about it, yeah, all right, yeah, sure, it's nearly 9 p.m. Whoops, I didn't realise. Yeah, it's a good point. Although sometimes I do get lost as well. So when you're like consuming something, do you think maybe when you're consuming something within your own home space, that time is working differently, or your perception of time is working differently? Because if you get like watch a program or do a thing for an hour, it feels a lot shorter or sometimes longer when you're engaging with that content. And do you think that might be to do with immersion or change of state in regards to that? Maybe.
I definitely think if I'm not on technology all day, I think that my perception of time changes. There's this really interesting digital Tarkovsky, I think. It's like this book, but I think he's saying his name. I'm saying his name right. Tarkovsky is like a famous cinema director, and he really explored time in his films, and he kind of like thought when the camera could capture like time was pressure, and he could through his camera, through capturing long scenes and zooming through, he would capture the pressure of the time and the rhythm in that space, so it'd have some kind of like weight to it, I think, and that really kind of like affects something in the viewer, and it definitely was a massive influence for me, like with cinema and stuff. That was mostly my final movie, was just like capturing the rhythm in the space, but I've forgotten why I was going on about that now. But oh yeah, digital Tarkovsky. It was like basically looking how through the different screens you look at throughout your day, it fractures your perception of time. So the more screens you look, because it's a digital clock, and this digital clock is false, but that starts to determine your time. But as soon as you put that down, don't have any interaction with technology all day, you'll have, I would guess, a more fuller, I guess, experience of like, you know, kind of time. That's saying something. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a big clock watcher. Like I'm a really big clock watcher. So I don't like to not have my clock near me. I realized that when I was like being assessed for dyslexia in college, they said you get really uncomfortable when you aren't able to see the time, don't you? So, yeah, I need to know. Always need to know. I don't know why, but because I'm always late for everything. So it's like I still know the time. I'm just always late.
Well, I think we've got one of our first comments.
So we have a comment.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a comment.
Rebecca's watching. Hi, Rebecca. How are you doing? So she's throwing about like, do I put different lights in my flat to play with that time perception and stuff? I was like, a few times I've like pulled the park hands out and just like changed it and stuff, but I haven't done it anywhere near the kind of like level I should. I've always had this great realization, I can do whatever I want with the environment around me, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. But I never do. that much really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know, just having a time. I mean, we started to, and I need to apply lighting into our living room now because we've started changing the space and living on, like, we living on the floor. We kind of like pulled all the pillows down to the floor, and don't have like, you know, a sofa anymore. So we need to start like applying lights in there and stuff, and properly start playing with my environment a little bit. When the lockdown started, the first night we had Bonobo on the boiler room, I was like, oh, I got the park hands out, matched the lighting on the boiler room set, I got it moving around the flat and stuff. I was like, basically, we were there.
Yeah. It's the same thing.
Emotionally, I was there.
Yeah, truly. I'd say I really, really love, and I don't know why I do, but I really do. You know those TVs which have the holes in the back, that just reflect the color of what's on the screen. It's called amber light.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. You can do it with LEDs. You just put a bunch of
you can just do LEDs. You do LEDs that look like a little Raspberry Pi. You can like develop it so it can just set it automatically. It basically copies the image and then sends it out through very, very few pixels to create an ambient light of what's on screen, like on your wall. And I really love that, like so much that I've looked into trying to do it, but I've not had the time to be able to like try and build it for my TV because I'm not gonna like sort my I'm not gonna like do it on my TV yet. But it's like my house. One of my old housemate has one, and he says it's so pointless. It's such a gimmick, and it's like, but it's such a good gimmick. It's so fun. But yeah, I haven't really done that much with lighting. Like otherwise, I really want to at some point. But mine is just this little lamp. They're kind of different. The difference of just the big lamp or the small lamp or the outside lamp.
I'm like, apart from this one, I think I'm the lights over here.
Yeah, you're in the dark.
Like, I'm in the dark. I'm probably like I got the blackout curtains, but I think I'm way too stuck in the screen. I'm sort of appreciating it now. Try to, because I think the main thing that is sort of acts, at least for me, a source of distraction. You got all these things that tells you come here, and so that you don't have like a bunch of like you got ads. Like imagine like although I got an ad blocker and still open a Facebook page. All you got is just a bunch of ads that are like chat with me, and then you got oh shit, there's someone posted something really stupid, and it kind of sucks you in, and it's just a spiral. It's like once you start it, I'm kind of trying to organize my digital space so it's a lot more focused into what I want to do, which is like it takes time, and it takes really like it's not an easy task, and I don't think I'm there yet.
It's rock hard. Like it's just I mean maybe I'm over like it, maybe I could just like actually spend some time, but like it is. I was speaking to like Susie about it last night. It's like basically the internet is Facebook and Amazon, and like you know to a lot of people that's just what the internet is. You know what I mean? They're the only sites to use, on you know, and I added you know Netflix and stuff like that, the streaming software and stuff, but to actually break out of that and actually find like a healthy way to like digest information through those networks, it takes time and a lot of effort.
Yeah, and they're designed like that's the purpose. Like it's not really, I would say it in a sort of a demonic way. It's purely they want to maximize their profits. They want to sell ads. They need people to watch their stuff so they can put more ads so they can pay their bills. It's like it's an endless loop. Like once you start, and then everybody else is doing it. So if they stop doing it, someone else will do it. But it's sort of
yeah. But the problem is with the kind of structure of things like that is that in order to break out from that structure, you have to live within that structure. Because we're already in it, no matter anything else. So it's trying to like break out of it at the moment. We need to try and undermine it, and by providing the alternatives without doing what they do. But at the same time, we still live in a world of rent. We still live in a world of this, and it's just a bit shit. Because we need to break out of that kind of, because we need like amazing things that are created for purpose rather than created for, as you said, for profit. It's created as what they are rather than thinking this is going to be the biggest thing, or someone wants to back us for this, or someone wants to throw an advert in, or something like that. Where it's like, well, you like if like whoever had those, they would be there for survival rather than to just cover our bases. But yeah, it's a pain.
No, definitely. We have to. it's really like jumped ahead because of that kind of like thirst for growth and like profit and stuff. So technology is like spearheaded, but the ethics along the way and actually testing things out before they're released on society and stuff like that, it's just like it's non-existent. It's like the wild wild west, you know what I mean? It's like humans do something and then realize 20 years later what they've actually done, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, and then try and like spend 10 years undoing it and then do something else. Like,
Yeah.
In the meantime, it pops around. The new thing pops around, and no one checked it before they release it. But I think that's the role of art. I would say. I kind of feel that's sort of like what I'm trying to look at when I do any sort of an artwork. And it's sort of apart from like obviously like I would say it's more artwork, not I would say not that much a performance, but more sort of installation. And what I'm trying to look at is how let me say certain technology could be either reutilized or just showcase some negative aspect of it that people aren't consciously paying attention. I think that's what most of the net artists are, one way or another. Like doing this.
Definitely having some having some effect on society and the habits in it, because I think that there's a lot of people trying to do that, you know what I mean, and there'll be especially in this time now, I think there'll be quite a bit of focus on it as well, I guess. Can I get your opinion on something? Another thing me and Susie were talking about, obviously this phone tracking of like you know, in society, it's going to have to become a thing basically, if the society is going to run at any kind of level. So obviously like the people who like control that data and what they do with it and stuff, so obviously she was voicing her concern about that, and I was like, oh yeah, that I am concerned about it, but my opinion is, I guess they're the only people who can make it because they're in a powerful position. I guess you're always going to have the people who have the resources to do it are going to be at the top. But I was like, it's been happening for ages anyway. Not that it's an excuse, but like we've got so much data out there about us. It's like it's out there, you know what I mean? It's like and we suddenly start caring about it now, but when we start caring about it now, will that affect how long or if we get a phone tracking device that helps society and stuff? It's like it's an interesting debate, I think. I think
no, that's definitely I think that's my last sort of a commission was sort of partially related to that, and it's sort of it's a really grey area because I can't say I agree with the point that this thing is absolutely useless and it won't do any good, because obviously in a situation like this we see countries like South Korea that are definitely benefiting from the whole thing, but at the same time there's like it's a really the thing I kind of feel is like there's lack of dialogue how the thing should be done, because obviously there are ways to anonymize data, there are ways definitely they could be researched, and with enough social pressure there will be definitely more adequate way to do tracking without without people using this data later on for profiting, or even if they use it, users got complete control over whether they want to use the data or not, or something like that. So I kind of feel that's sort of missing at the moment, because it's like it's either you got the solution, and at the same time the company say we're going to provide you the solution, but no one says is there actually any other solution that it may work. And it's good to have like a bit of competition, I would say, in that sense, of what else could work and see which is the best in the end. See.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like I have, like it's something that we need at the moment because of us everything, and to put it in a functional way. But it's something that needs so many safeguards in regards to make sure it's not abusable, because it's so abusable. And as we said, like everything we know, it's already functioning, and we all know it can happen, and people can utilize concept tracks and things like the same thing. Everyone just throwing their, you know, you see all the time people like getting rid of their burner phones or whatever like that, because they can track you on the network or to the closest like network tower or something like that. The only problem I have is the fact, after all this is done, how do you get whatever government sources to give up the access to that system? And are you able, because there's no kind of time frame or limit to what we're doing at the moment, like all we know is that the coronavirus bill is in for 2 years. Like that's the powers that have been set for. After those 2 years, is it an opt-out situation? Do you have to go through the right to be forgotten? Can they actively still track you? And also, when they no longer need it for the virus and knowing where we are, what else could they use it for? Like if you missed a council tax payment by accident, are they able to track and find out where you are based on that? Like,
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
my argument is that's happening now and can happen now, without our permission anyway. Or we willingly submit our permission and then it's getting used in so many different ways. So that's already happening. I think the one maybe good thing I guess could come from it is it could help us redefine how we keep our data and how people use it. I remember seeing something at this Future Everything little conference, and they're talking about basically the guy from the BBC about like data hubs. So all your data is kept in one place, which you have a password to, and then you can see and allow people access to it, and you can turn it off and on at your own kind of like leisure, I guess, like a safe, a data safe that you
right,
have.
okay.
Yeah, that's, I think a lot of blockchain technology, at least part, like some of it is oriented towards this. Most of the projects that are coming out are basically privacy protected. And it will be like, at the same time, it will be, I can definitely see the arguments pro data tracking, and it definitely will need it more and more. But the whole consolidation of how this happens, I kind of feel it's a lot unexplored. And the thing that Sean mentioned about data hubs or any sort of a protocol that is sort of agreement in between society and the people that are using this data, how exactly this is going to happen is a thing that we should start thinking about as society, I guess.
Oh yeah, I mean we need individual control over it.
No, that I support. That's what I absolutely support. And if it was like a consolidated thing that you're able to access yourself without hassle, and that you give people permissions to enter or not enter, then that's something I can very much get on board with. I think it's more, as we have at the moment now, where you have, whenever you sign up for something, whenever you do something, you obviously give your data away, or you give permissions for their data to access your Google account or to access your whatever. But you can never really find a way to get rid of that. And it's all like, because I know there's the right to be forgotten in GDPR as well, like to get rid of any data that you don't want to be held by people, but it's so usable by them in so many different ways. It's one of the most valuable things they've got. So if you had the control, it's like, nah, I don't need you to have it anymore. Just turn it off. That's something I do support, actually.
Well, you could like even like have a key like you do for a stream key, and when you go and fill in a form, you put that key in and then you stream your data in there or something, and then obviously you can stop the stream anytime you want, I guess. But then I guess blockchain is the only way to do that, because like blockchain becomes this open source thing, doesn't it, that kind of like you keep control of. No one's got control over it, I guess.
Well, depends on the blockchains, but if you follow, because the whole thing is if we follow the end-to-end principle of the networks, and if the whole blockchain network is end-to-end, then if you can build these contracts, you can build a way to protect the data. And basically you send them, let me say, an Ethereum package. Like on the good side of things, you send them an Ethereum package, then they open it, they pay you back, or they pay you money for that. Because I guess that's the way to evolve, the whole thing to evolve. Because if everyone got access to their own data and they can protect it, I guess the next thing is you should be paid for your data. It's like you are giving them their money, you're actually making their money. I kind of, that's some sort of, at the moment, try to be critical, but at the same time, I guess the technology is still at quite early stages, and I'm supportive of the idea of, I can select how much ads I want to watch. Fair enough. I agree on this. If I watch more ads, I get paid more. If I watch less ads, I get paid less. Fair enough. Okay. If I want to stop them, I stop them. I don't get paid. Fair enough. It's still, I guess the choice will be like the fact that at the moment we don't have that much choice, and hopefully, like in the future, to find a blockchain or any sort of other sensible, like obviously because it needs to be social development in the social side as well, will come up to a point where we got this sort of mechanism for dealing with it.
Well, when I thought about this in the past, obviously, like you think about, because Facebook's got all your pictures and stuff and this, that, and the other. It's like, well, if you were to take all your pictures off, how would you share? Obviously, you could just WeTransfer, but obviously you'd have like maybe more shared drives, I guess, where you have like a family drive and stuff, and you have certain access to it and stuff, and that could obviously be in a safe kind of like concept as well, I guess. But I don't know if you both watched that data documentary on Netflix.
Nah.
No, I think you remember you posted that ages ago, but I haven't. No.
Oh, I'd give it a watch.
Yeah,
I
I might do
forgot
that tonight.
what it's say. It's really good. I mean, obviously, I came out of it. Now I'm gonna take all my data off your Facebook, and obviously, I didn't. You know what I mean? And but it's could be something to like plug away at over the next couple of months, I guess.
Yeah.
To slowly start clawing back as much as I can as possible from everything. I know there's certain sites you can search and they'll use your kind of like like kind of email, I think, and then they'll kind of search who's attached to it, and you can send requests to them to stop using your data and stuff. I haven't used it that much. Yeah, it's, yeah, Karina just said it's the great hack. That's what it's called. The great hack. Thanks.
Oh
Karina.
yes.
I think that's one of our third comments. Yeah.
We're getting a few.
Yeah, got a few.
We got help from the audience. That's good.
Oh, there is. Yeah.
bit by bit.
Yeah.
Um.
Up. Yeah, I do need to watch that. Yeah.
It's scary. It is really scary. It is.
Yeah,
like,
but all that stuff is. I mean, like the kind of day-to-day use of where it's like one of the most important things you ever do, I think, and what I always do now, because I have like an endless battle with cold callers, and just cold callers forever, all the time. And they say like none of them get your number cold call. No one cold calls you. No one just has your number and gets it. They all legally have it, and the reason why is because you've ticked somewhere. Would you like to be in contact with third parties? Now that's basically you're a company that you've signed up for, passing your data on to a third company that they think you might be interested in. Now what they do is they sell that data of yours to one of those companies who then just ring you with the most irrelevant or whatever kind of information that's there. So you can get the public register, or they can buy it off partnerships. From things, and the only way in which they can buy that is if you've ticked a box that says that you're happy for third parties to contact you with offers or something like that, which used to be auto ticked, and now you have to opt into it. But yeah, it's the most. Wow. It's like a daily hassle, but it shows them whereabouts can my data end up. I don't even know what I was being offered. I was just being offered everything.
Well, I don't really get many cold callers. When I do, they're always robots.
Oh, really?
Yeah, always.
Oh, I got loads. I always got loads. Some robots, some scams, a few what I call a few people. When it's people, they actually have something that they want to say or sell me or something like that. And it's like, no matter what you do, it's near impossible to get off. The only way I managed to do it is because I actually signed up for telephone preference service. And then it's like relaxed. And I still get some, but they now know that if they call me, they hang up immediately. And I used to work in an outbound call center. And there's sometimes like no one really takes you off the system. All they do is they write on it saying, "Do not call this person," and therefore they'll just immediately hang up because they'll know that person will be a bit mean. And I've been a bit mean a few times. I work in a call center. I've worked in call centers. I'm normally very nice, but I think there was a day where I was called from the same company 5 times.
Wow.
Like, I don't want to do this survey. And they would always call me like Max D because there was like during the time I was going with the title MX, so mix, but they didn't understand that, so they put it as Max. And it's like, no, I'm not Max D, I'm D.
Mad.
Yeah, it's worth of it.
I think I started, but with scammers, I watched this TED Talk ages ago of this guy that started answering scammers and doing some sort of a conversation. It's quite funny. I did it a couple of times. It's really funny just to take piss of scammers. Then just continue the conversation, then continue chat shit. And if they get too pissed, just tell them that they know where, like 90% of the time, these people are pretty incompetent. Like if they're competent enough, they probably won't realize that you're scammed. That's the way I was thinking. And like every time I tell them, I know you've been tracked, the police will come to you. They start swearing to whatever weird language you can think of. They got so much of them.
I mean, a performance would be kind of like chatting to the robot scammers, getting to ring you and just like try and build a conversation with the robot scammers.
Yeah.
That could be a good aim.
But they're quite the same. Like half of them, they claim that did you take part in a car accident? Yeah, sure. Go on, tell me more.
I like that as like take part, as if it's like I don't know. Oh yeah, this is it. This is what we did one day. That's great.
Yeah. But I guess it's all hit and miss. It's what we do is like the safest way. You just send it to a million people. One of them got car accident. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not the right person to speak with. Fair enough. And I guess that's the whole thing. Because I remember when I registered, I was doing some legal biz. The first thing that the HMRC, when you register a trademark, the first thing they do is just send you a big email. Don't answer to anybody else that is not the HMR. It was IPO office, sorry. But yeah, the first email that you got sent, there are loads of scams. And the first thing I received was a scam. After exactly the moment I registered, there was this company. What was it? It says there was, let me say, a company in the Netherlands, but the office was in Serbia. I was like, yeah, it's all legit, you know. Some like absolute bullshit.
So
it's not like it's not even, yeah, go on. go on.
So I think we digressed from narrative maybe a little bit, but
Well, quite.
maybe it's all narrative. I don't know. I was thinking, obviously, wouldn't it be cool if you could fly through your data? You know, like you put a headset on and then you could see all the data around you, like Matrix. But then you'll get a sense of where all the data is then, and then you can properly understand it. Because like at the moment we have this concept of data, but you know, we're always trying to understand it. It's like, you know, it's like something that we kind of understand but don't. But if you could actually be around you and you can like experience it and interact with it, then you get a better kind of understanding of what the data is and how to handle it differently, I guess. And this is what I kind of researching through my VR stuff. It's like how you could put. I'd be trying to. So enhance. Imagine it'd be more like local area. I haven't been able to properly describe what I mean for yet, but like you put like your headset on, but it's like this enhanced sense of your local environment. So you could like put it on, and then you get like you'd experience the data of like say the biodiversity or the electro kind of fields, as how much electric is running through like the area, because that's the one thing that connects us all, isn't it? It's that kind of like electricity. It's like sending like and processing. That's kind of like life, isn't it? And again, coming back to narrative, it's like that's like the simplest narrative, isn't it? You know what I mean? Just sending that neuron firing in your brain and activating your body to move and stuff. It's like that's basically the movement and the narrative and stuff like that. So that's something in that I haven't figured out what or how it would be, but you could just put it on and get a better sense of your environment a little bit more. But
I would say that's in an essence all sorts of things that we do at the moment is communicating with data, like representing data. That was actually quite a good point in the book that I was reading. The guy was just saying it. It is everything that we do is interpreting data. Everything that you see in your computer is interpretation of data in one way or another. Like he was speaking of basically the database is sort of the new narrative. Like you don't have the linear structure, you have a database, and that's sort of they would say as in cinema we got the timeline, and first action happens, then something else happens. It sort of builds. It might go up and like back and forth, but it's still there is a certain timeline. With digital space is the database. Whatever you do, like your computer game is a database of polygons in a certain map, and their coordinates and stuff. So it sort of is the way that we are representing this data, which is so far quite limited and at the same time quite broad.
well, yeah, I mean, it's the whole. It needs to be more 3D. I think that's the whole idea. I think like VR would be the best thing. Well, a more realistic thing to start playing with anyway, because it needs to be, as you said, it's not linear anymore. It's 4D. It's around you. Like it's like, you know, and you need to be able to operate it like in some kind of like sensors that allow you to operate in that space. I think at the moment we are just limited to this like screen base. Not everyone, obviously, but majority of the people are limited to this kind of format of, as you say, interpreting the data that's behind it and stuff.
Well, I mean, that in its own right, like having a visual medium of the way in which your data is stored or something like that in a virtual room, like it would be a virtual deposit box of where you would see, you know, just like you'd have with a bank, where you'd be able to see physically in a kind of translated to human form, like paper in filing cabinets. being able to see that physically of how much has been going there, and then being able to say, right, get me the data for chess.com, and then it just brings you a file for chess, and it says, right, you've given your photo, Facebook access, and I don't know, your something details based on your IP address or whatever like this, for connectivity. And I said, right, okay, that's fine. Don't want them to have my Facebook access, or I want to put a lock on my IP one, then give it back, and then that gets taken away, and sent back to chess.com, which tells them, no, you're not allowed to use this image, or you're not allowed to use this thing. And it gives, like, that's what I can imagine to be a tactile thing, where you could say, right, I'll put down a Friday, and I'll go 2 hours in, and I'll just have a look at it, and I'll just go, right, give me that information, and it brings it down like a little file.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
that's me. Yeah, that's me thinking romantically about data and VR.
Well,
I was
it's got to be the way forward, hasn't it? Something
Mm.
like that, I think, is definitely a new way in which we can like kind of experience the data. I imagine we could just like say imagine or MR became more readily available and stuff. You could just press a button on your screen, and then that will unfold around you, like,
Yeah.
and then you could just like kind of like choose like like maybe, and then you could just unfold it again and put it back in the screen, or something
Oh
like
yeah.
that. You know,
Oh yeah. It'd be an absolute dream for me to like just have my glasses there, like a button, or I just go but, or like double tap it, and it's like suddenly it's in MR capable, and therefore I can now just start seeing what I want to see, based on then just dub turn off. Like that would
then
just be. And also the same thing, whereas like old 3D glasses, if people just had like a copy of them, that they're able to use that to access it. But it's something it has to be accessible, it has to be cheap, and has to be easily functionable.
oh
Um,
yeah.
so therefore it needs so many templates, because it needs to have the ability for like us to mess around, and like particularly you, Alex, to have a fun world and yours. Uh, but it's
It's
like for
quite
other people, it
limited
needs to
so
have a
far,
very,
but yeah.
yeah. For other people, they need a kind of set template and stuff, um, for to be able to access the things and not be overwhelmed. Because that's the number one thing you would be immediately, just be overwhelmed by how much tracking there is on you. As you said, it'd be quite terrifying.
Oh yeah.
If I see mountains and mountains of, like a world generated out of the files that concern data about you.
I was
Oh
thinking
yeah. That.
when I was talking
Yeah.
about MR before. Obviously, imagine if you had an MR, your headset and stuff. You
Mm.
could go around your real environment, and then you could say, I come into one room where I keep all my files, but then I could like a virtual kind of like box or something. I'd place it there, so I could access it still in that area, but just adds another layer
Yeah,
to it. But wouldn't it be creepy where obviously you could hide that? That'd be a
yeah,
privacy wall. So people that
yeah.
walk into that space can't see that part of reality that you've made in your MR. I was like, oh,
Well, so that's what I was thinking is like, say for example, it's a box. What you'd have to do is basically you just have to put a padlock on the box.
mm,
So you could go over to the box and you could open it, but they would just see a padlock on that box.
mm,
It says no, unless like the permission's given by you to let them look at the box.
mm,
But it's like, I think wiping out areas of view, I think that could never happen. I think virtual objects you could only block virtual objects, because otherwise you can mess with what you can actually see in reality. That would be weird.
mm.
Oh, well, that's if there is a EEG technology that is sort of like it's still early
Yeah.
stages. It's not as
What's
like, I would say VR and AR are way more developed as technology. Like even stuff like sound gestures could be more earlier than the EEG technology that is able to control your associations with stuff.
yeah.
Like basically rewrite your neural pathways, because that's the end. That's if someone figured this out. It's like I don't know if it's the beginning or the end, but it's definitely a turning point.
Somewhere. One of the Team Human podcasts, that it speaks. I think I mentioned it last time. But one of the originators of VR kind of evolved his practice, and he's gone into more. I've forgotten what you call it, but just basically sending sound vibrations into the head to change perspectives. So
Mm.
like the VR would do all that experience, but just doing it through vibration and sound, rather non-invasive. You know what I mean? Like people can do it and implant stuff, but like that sounds cool.
Yeah, that's definitely it. But that's the whole thing. I kind of feel, and it's the thing that we should think more about. All these things are we usually take it quite positively, and obviously, like I've been like it's throughout all my childhood. I've been, hey, technology is great. I can do so much shit that makes my life easier. But like it's the thing. The more I grow up, the more I'm like, we shouldn't be that uh naive towards that stuff, and I think that's what's happening at the moment. Is sort of a good lesson for, yeah, we should be a bit more critical when it first starts, but we can avoid then living in the next, oh shit, the world is polarized.
Yeah, well,
Oh shit. Like
it's
we didn't expect that.
it's
And
taking
it's like,
it's taking
yeah,
more control, isn't it? It's just taking more control over our situation rather than it being dictated to us through Facebook or like people who just want to make money all the time. It's like taking control over the ethics and how we use like technology in the right ways for the right means to help people. I think, and all the capabilities there. Just like there isn't the momentum, I guess, to kind of like make a movement behind it, I guess. But I'd say like who wouldn't be in support of having your own safe for data? Who wouldn't? Who would be against that? Like, and you can build.
People who sell it.
Eh?
People who sell it, and then people who like that's the main thing. The people who
Yeah.
sell it and the people who know the value of it particularly,
Yeah.
and because you would basically just taken away their ability to do so. You'd just be taking away their livelihoods.
Well, it's war.
yeah,
It's
Google will die.
yeah. It's
Google will die if you do that.
it'll be it's like a type of war, isn't it? Kind of
Yeah.
thing. You know what I mean? In some kind of way, like it's these invisible fucking wars now, isn't it? It's just every fucking war is invisible. This is all happening. That's happening, and that will have to happen with like the likes of Google. If any kind of like change is going to happen, I guess. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think maybe we should start bringing it to an end. Maybe.
Yeah. We did get a comment from Maritsu.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, which is whilst VR might bring you closer to your data and the experience, the headset can distance you from your social group. Most of the great experiences that we have, we share with our friends. Which I think that was like the kind of thing we were mentioning as well, like last week also, of where it's the kind of shared experiences in these things. We've spoken probably more about today about the isolated experiences that we can have and utilizing it for each other, but it's that kind of replicating that. Can you like replicate in a digital space, hanging out? I guess. I mean, that's what we're trying to learn, isn't it?
That's the next sort of. I think that was the last Ars Electronica. It was one of the main sort of topics that they got the big research about. Now, how you can actually create actual collaborative experience, like social experience within VR, and obviously you can do that AR and like just like any sort of an environment that's like added reality environment that you build on top of that. The sort of, I think it's quite active area of research because it's obviously there'll be like a huge media implications and like huge entertainment implications. Because like imagine we can all go to a party, just put a VR headset on, have this situation. I'm buying it. I'm definitely.
It's like what's that scene from Demolition Man? Is it? Have you watched Demolition Man? Where they're having sex, but they're not having sex. They just like they go back because he's like from the past and stuff, and in the future they just go into the room and they put on this headset and they don't actually touch each other. It's all just through like sending waves and intentions to each other. I was like, oh. Is that the future of socializing? I don't know. I mean, I kind of get what Marie's saying, but I think you can have an experience and then go and talk about it as well, and to like people and like share it still. Like you could still have the individual experience, I guess, or I guess just experience by yourself with the environment, say, and then come back and talk about what that experience is like, and then the other person can have a go or be in the same space as well, I guess.
I think it's accessibility as well. It's when we're it's when we start to develop it further. Like I've always had the dream of playing video games in VR, like with friends. It's like.
Oh, yeah, I think I was watching. There is a VR chat, like sort of a better version of VR chat, but they released a VR hanging out space. That I'm not sure how exactly it works. And it'll be really DIY and really Like I don't know, there's definitely way to go, but like I was just reading, like watching some stuff about that, like just barely seen it, and it was so cool. That seems like a way to move, because obviously, but think about it, like we always thought that like Facebook will create that sort of experience, and look what we got now. And I remember the first VR chat, like because the whole thing is like you never it's sort of it's all good intentions in first place, but you never think about like the negative consequences. And this is like it's an unexplored territory. So obviously the first couple of attempts will be a lot more like a lot more got a lot higher chances to do damage than the later ones, I guess. But it's still funny. Like just think about even VR chat. What was the first thing that people started doing? It's just ranting other people, and because it's virtual space, you can be absolute dickhead, and no one cares because you got an avatar.
Yeah.
I think
That's it.
for the first time yesterday, I watched a movie with like people on Zoom on at the same time. So we had like, friends in the corner and their faces while the film was on. And yeah, I didn't know if I'd like it or not, but it actually was quite nice. Just because just having an image of them like in the corner and stuff, it's like you do feel like you're with them to a degree, and you kind of watch stuff at the same time because you can look at their reactions as well, which I'm always quite a sucker for personally when I watch a movie of anyone, is I look at people's reactions to it as well. I just can't help myself really.
Yeah. I used to do the exact same things. I haven't done it recently, but me and my old housemate, we used to watch One Piece, like in marathon. Like we'd watch it over time. When we weren't living together, and we would basically load it up on the anime website that we watch it on, and we just basically time it, said right, press play in 3, 2, 1, play, and then we just watch that, and that would basically be what we do. And that was like 2014 when we were doing that. It was so because it's just so much more active, and because it's like with a really long form like anime and something like that, it was like we'll watch 3 episodes together, then we'll stop, rather than binging 200 episodes by myself within a week and a bit. It means we'll watch it together like then and then. So yeah, I think there is a really nice shared experience that you can have in regards of that. We're still watching that. It's never going to end.
Yeah, and you know, coming back to like what the future has in hold for like test card, I think over the next couple of months, not months, over the year kind of thing, is like how we use and make those spaces online for us to still kind of like collaborate, I guess, as well. I think I mentioned before about would it work if we were on a Zoom chat and we shared and like someone shared the screen like we were all in a meetup, I guess. Would that be better? Don't know. Than just streaming. It's worth experimenting with.
Yeah.
No, definitely. There's still, that's what I kind of felt the first thing, I think, but it's probably me being sort of deformed deeply by reading a lot of stuff about like critical analysis of technology. But I think that was the first time I kind of spotted you got some sort of a rhythm when you speak with people. And when you got into an online chat, it's way easier to destroy this rhythm, especially like at the moment there's 3 people. If you do it with 20 people, if someone shouts, everything gets destroyed. And it's kind of, that's why people are muting people and stuff like that. How you decide who's going to be muted, because in a real situation, you just don't have this. And how you at the same time build this consensus of one person speaking when you got 40 screens and you can't see all of them. That's sort of,
I mean, obviously, I guess with this as well, we could, like, if anyone was interested in joining a conversation, I could privately share, like, this invite as well, to, like, if they wanted to pop in for, like, 5 minutes, have a chat, and go away, kind of thing. It's like, it maybe could work, maybe not. I don't know how many people would be up for it, but maybe.
Yeah, it's always great to have people on, and yeah, having, like, a rotating chair as well would be always really nice. Like, anyone who wants to have something to say or like just to be part of it, I think that's always a nice part to do. Like it is open, of course. We're always here, but I mean, I think having that kind of 4th screen to be open for whoever wishes to, I think that'd be very nice.
Yeah, it's like the Roman mic, isn't it? I guess, but like you still pop in and just have a chat and say a question and have a chat. I don't know. We'll see. It's all everything now is about like how you engage with a community and you get it to like get the kind of like conversation going, I guess, all the way as much as you can.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think might leave it there. Unless
sounds
everyone's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good place to close.
Yeah. Thank you for everyone for kind of watching the 4th episode. You know, we're developing every episode, and we're kind of like excited for the next couple of months about how we could like develop this platform and see where it can go. So again, any kind of comments about like this or kind of like possible things we should try out and stuff as a community, just share, message, and you know, we'll kind of like talk about it and try and get something off the ground. But again, yeah, thanks for everyone who took part in our mixtape. It was fantastic.
Yeah, looked amazing. I got the chance to switch to Twitch while I was playing. Looked
It was great.
Oh yeah, I had on it. I just loved it. Loved it.
So I'll be posting that tomorrow, like just by a standalone video, and we'll be like make a track list of all the visual artists who are in it as well. So yeah, I'll share that, and hopefully that goes around and people get to, because the whole idea is it's basically a directory for visual artists, and you know, and obviously we want to promote local musicians as well by choosing a song for that mixtape and stuff, which you know, absolutely smashed this time. So we'll be putting a call out, so if anyone wants like a tune that they might think can go with the next mixtape, send that in as well and suggest it, I guess, and then see what happens.
Banging.
Sounds good.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you too for another fantastic evening. So yeah, bye bye.
Right.
Go back to